Hello, and welcome to Knitting 101, Techniques Untangled. We are going to take you through a series of 8 technique classes, all designed to boost your confidence and help you with your knitting skills. In this class, we're going to talk about continental knitting, which is a style of knitting where you pick the yarn from the left side instead of wrapping it around from the right. I'm going to show you how to continental knit. Don't ask me why it's called continental knitting. It's also sometimes referred to as throwing. And if you've grown up here in the UK, then you're probably used to a method of wrapping where the yarn is coming from the right-hand side of your needle. So we are going to be coming from the left-hand side and picking the yarn. So I've just got a swatch started here. And what's really important to remember is I'm going to show you a very specific way that I wrap the yarn around my finger. There's loads of different ways to do this, and you need to find what's comfortable for you, but I suggest trying what I'm going to show you first and seeing how that works for you before adapting. So the first thing I'm going to do is pull the yarn here to my left hand side because I'm going to hold the yarn in my left hand. I actually happen to be left-handed, so I highly recommend this technique for any left-handers out there. Now I'm going to wrap the yarn just around my left index finger. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come under the yarn once and twice. So I then have the yarn sort of coming up around the back, over my left finger, and over it one more time. And then I just have the end, the long end that's attached to my ball of yarn, hanging out in the middle of my hand, and I just sort of loosely hold that with my ring finger and my pinky finger. So this is the finger you're tensioning with, and you can see I can sort of move the yarn around. And then what we're going to do is we'll just do the knit stitch for now, and I'm going to poke my needle in from left to right like you would normally, and then I'm going to pull that through. Now, of course, we can't get that. Let's just do the first stitch of the row. So I'm going to poke in from the left, wrap this around the back. It's very hard to do slow motion. And I'm going to pick that off of my left finger. See how my left hand isn't really doing anything? And I'm able to just pull that yarn with the right, and it's all just wrapping, and I'm pulling through the yarn as I take the stitches off. And that is essentially a continental knit stitch. I'm going to show you what that looks like a little bit more at speed once you get going. So you can see that I have very minimal wrist movement, very minimal hand movement really, and I can get going quite quickly, which is one of the advantages of continental knitting. So I finished my knit row, and now I'm going to do the purl. One thing you'll notice is I learned to do this when I was a kid, and I do a kind of clunky thumb catch thing, but it works for me, so I don't need to fix it. And you will find what works for you. So I still have my yarn here in my left finger, and I've just brought it to the front of my needle because I'm going to be purling. I'm going to bring my right needle under both the working yarn and through the stitch from right to left. Now I'm going to wrap that around, so I just move my finger a little bit. Now here's where I'm a little bit clunky because as a kid I probably couldn't figure out how to do this. I sort of hold that yarn with my thumb as I pull it through the stitch and off my needle. So again, I'm coming under both, I'm going right to left, I am wrapping that, and then I'm using my thumb to help me pull that through that stitch. So again, you may find you don't need the thumb, or you can use the thumb at the beginning. And again, you can see that my wrist movement is really minimal in doing this. So it's great for RSI and preventing RSI because you just have much less movement than a throwing technique. So then again, sort of at speed, you can see there's a little bit of movement in my left finger, and I can get going pretty quickly, which is nice. All right, so now that we've done a knit and a purl side, I'm just going to show you how I do like a ribbing. So I'm working both the knit and the purl rather quickly. So as we did before, in from the left and through the right, I'm going to pick, and then I just bring my finger over a tiny bit to get to the purl side. And then I can, like, there isn't much, my needle is really so close to that yarn when I'm pulling the stitch off. So it's minimal movement to get that yarn wrapped in front and wrapped back behind. Like when I'm knitting at speed, I don't even notice that my finger's doing it because it's very minimal to move that yarn. Now what was I doing? Purl. I'm doing a purl and another knit. So again, I'll just do that a little bit more quickly. It's important to have the yarn at the stitches at the ready there. And that is Continental knitting. It really is just all about practice, 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 especially if you've learned a different way and have been doing it for a really long time. But it's very worthwhile if you want to get into colorwork knitting, because then you can hold the yarn in both hands, or if you are struggling with RSI. There are a load of other videos that you can watch to help you along, so do go check them out. Practice your Continental knitting, pick a project, and just stick with it. It will get easier over time. Thank you for watching, and happy knitting!